Although the tradition of Disney animation goes back more than 7 decades, each and every new Disney feature breaks new ground in the art and technology of animation.
I think what was unique about our picture was we combined digital painting technologies with 3D modeling technologies so that we have really fluid backgrounds that are obviously 3D, ones that you can move through, but still feel like paintings. We also really developed the idea of the virtual set. It's an actual constructed set, like our ship, for instance. It's a 3D set, but it's been fully painted to look like a painting, and then we can move our camera freely within that set, and that was a huge plus for us. It opened up all kinds of avenues for staging shots. I mean, just cinematography possibilities that we never had before. It gave us so much freedom, a creative freedom, I think, that we never felt before.
As you look through the content here, you'll see an amazing merging of traditional hand-drawn techniques with the latest computer technologies, a further step in creating the credible world of Treasure Planet.
Next, we're going to look at effects.
Effects are all those things that aren't necessarily related to the character, like in this particular case, the sails, fire, water, even the shadows. Those are considered effects.
These are some effects tests. First one here of the sails, just to see what they would look like as they unfurled.
Then we have a whole series of animatics of the storm sequences.
Primarily done with a piece of software that was done here in-house called Hookah. It's the only real area inside the film where you see this particular technique.
The swirling black hole was a render using Hookah that's able to generate millions and millions of particles.
It gives you the sense the ship is about to be blown apart by this giant piece, but just at the last moment, everything begins to implode.
These animatics really gave us the flavor of what the final effects would look like in the film and proved to us that the cutting in the sequence was working well. Effects is also prop animation in addition to all the sort of organic effects that we've been talking about. We have some tests here of the cannon animation and the cannonball animation. We have to rig each and every one of these elements and figure out a way to get them working in the film.
Well, integrating the 2D and 3D is always a major challenge. If it's all 2D, it takes some problems away. If it's all 3D, then it's a little bit more uniform. But trying to blend the two inherently is an issue in terms of how do you get this two-dimensional character into a three-dimensional environment and make the two look like they're actually in the same world. Probably the biggest thing is on the ship. When you have a 3D camera move around the 3D ship, you have to have the characters look as though they're changing in dimension as well. That's probably the largest challenge that we've had on the film.
What you see here is the character, what we called a 3D stand-in, and that gave you a sense of his perspective shift as the ship went by the camera. Here we have the target area. That square represents the paper that the animator actually would draw on, so the size remains the same, and it stays parallel to the image plane. Here we have the reference camera along with the pose camera. You see what the animator would see on the 3/4 inch tape and how the perspective shift of the character is moved. And here is the full screen of the pose cam. So the character basically remains the same size, but again you see how he changes perspective. This is the animator's drawings. Ellen Woodbury and Adam Dykstra did a tremendous job of giving the perspective change of the characters in relation to how the camera and or the prop moves. And here's a rough composite of the characters done with that procedure and then placed onto the cards in 3D space on the ship.
What we're going to see are some of the environments in the film. The department that works with these is called layout.
And layout is basically the idea of where the camera is, the composition of the characters in relation to the set, and what the set will look like.
Here we're looking at a rough model of the interior, the Benbow Inn. This is how we block in a set and make sure that it's going to work to accommodate the action that we envision for that scene or sequence.
One of the ideas in the film was to have as many dynamic camera moves as possible. So we would build these sets, and whether we would use a dynamic camera move or not, it gave layout a much more broad area to develop and lay out the composition of their scenes.
These are animatics that we would develop to test out a concept for a sequence. Here, the pirates chasing the protagonist down the hallway.
In this scene, we see the air conditioner drop and break the catwalk. The characters drop through the longboat bay.
One of the really important aspects of the interior of the planet was to establish huge scale. And so this animatic was put together with that idea in mind, that you see how small a character is in relation to this incredible mechanism.
It's Treasure Planet found. We found it. We're
Yes,
there.
That's right. And because the movie is Treasure Planet, we thought that revealing the core of Treasure Planet should be one of the ultimate moments in the film.
Big moment.
Yeah.
And you see some of the outside too, which is just a basic planet, but you really find out that the inside is mechanical.
We are going to need a bigger boat!
So see the prongs and how they interact with the core. Here's a bit showing that energy effect, and also the establishment of the alien language that's in evidence throughout the planet.
When the map opens, these particles would come out. We call them intelligent pixels, which gave you a three-dimensional view of a map responding to where you are in relation to where Treasure Planet is located.
And what we wanted to show was that there were successive views that would lead toward Treasure Planet, giving you a view of how to get there.
One of the concepts was an idea of the portal, that you would go through these portals in time from wherever you were to another place.
Once they reached the planet, we wanted the idea that the map could guide you to where these portals were. So this was one of those concepts where the triangles would align when you were headed in the proper direction to reach the portal.
And this is just another effects test to give you an idea of what it might look like. We go through a lot of different variations in terms of look to kind of nail things down in terms of what you're going to see on screen.
The notion is the planet is a machine, but it's been overgrown over the years.
And one of the layout tests here, we had a mound in front of Silver because we didn't want to show a lot of the interaction of him walking through the treasure. So we put a mound of treasure in front of him to block out where his feet were located. We're going to talk about lighting now, which is something that most people don't really understand in animated film. It's the same kind of thing in live action. You have different scenes with different types of lighting.
These are the earliest tests that show deep canvas when we added the ability to light the paint strokes. Here we're seeing a really early rough test of deep canvas lighting with a rough character in place and our first take on how lighting would affect the paint strokes as we move a camera through an environment. Here you see it with the cleaned up character and the color in the lights and the color in the paint strokes added. One of the things that lighting allows is the ability to change an environment and reuse it, keeping the same painted strokes. Again, having a Disney background that can be altered from one sequence to another. So as we progress to the end of this test, what we did was alter the lighting as it would appear in another sequence and then reverse on the camera move to show you what that looks like. Again, using the same set of painted information.
And as extraordinary as this looked, unfortunately the story changed, so the whole thing got cut.